Hey everyone, it's Simone Watson, and well, I write mostly YA. One of the manuscripts I've written so far, Tethered, is adult, and I have started some middle grade, but I would say the majority of what I write is YA. And so recently, someone was talking in a Facebook group about what they call sex positive YA, and then someone else said that there's like now a hashtag for this, right? And I was like really surprised because I was thinking about it and I was like, are my books sex positive, right? And I was thinking about what this means and like why people, want stories to that could be described that way to exist. And I was like, I don't know, like are stories all either like sex positive or sex negative? Is your story sex positive as long as it doesn't make sex seem bad? I don't know. And then like if people have sex and then bad things happen, as does happen in real life, does that make the book sex negative? If people have sex and then something good happens, does that make the book sex positive? Like, what is this term, right? I think I think when people say they want books to be sex positive, I think the underlying thing there is they don't want your book to say that people who have sex are bad people, right? Um they may also mean that they don't want your book to say that sex leads to bad things all the time and like bad things happen when people have sex. I don't know. But if we're asking the question of okay, are people who have sex bad people? Um you know, my books, I do not write anything to say, well, here's the thing. I am a Christian. I don't think that having sex makes you a bad person, nor do I think that not having sex makes you a bad person. I don't even like to use the term bad person or like good person in general because how arbitrary are these terms? You know what I'm saying? Like if I think, "Oh, you're a bad person because you stole money." Um someone else, see, it just gets messy. I don't even like to use those terms good person or bad person, but I definitely um think that like you're not any less of a person or like worse of a person if you have sex than if you don't. That being said, I don't think that I view sex the same way that like most people view it. Um because, over my experiences like throughout my life and throughout my time walking with Jesus, my thoughts on sex have, definitely been affected and have changed. And I wouldn't say that I think of sex the same way that every Christian thinks about sex. Um it's a complex kind of thing to think about and talk about, and it's a complex issue. And I think that sometimes um it's easy to oversimplify it and say like, oh well, the world thinks sex is good and the church thinks sex is bad, and that would be so simple, right? Or to say the church thinks sex is bad, the world thinks sex is bad, but then on an interpersonal level people think it's good, and therefore it is good, and therefore it should be good in books. Like, I don't know. I i don't, let me say it this way. I don't think that our view of whether any specific action is good or bad should affect our view of whether people who carry out that action are good or bad. But I know that with some actions, that's going to happen. Like, for example, murder, right? Murder is generally accepted as bad. And so, for those people, not myself, but for those people who do think of the world in terms of good and bad people, most of those people would agree that murderers are bad people. So, in that way, yes, we do tie the positive or negative quality of the action to whether the person is good or bad, to the value of the person. I think that for something like sex, the, presence or absence of sex in a person's life does not make that person good or bad. But with that being said, that does not mean that I think that sex is a good choice all the time. Okay, so that's one thing. Doesn't mean I think it's a good choice, but if people make that choice, I don't think negatively of those people. And I don't want anyone to think that, oh, that they're a bad person because they choose to have sex, or that they're a bad person because they choose not to. I wouldn't want anyone to think that. I think that would be sad. And so the other thing is my characters do not necessarily think the same way that I do about sex. Some of my characters are sexually active, some of them are not, and in terms of like main characters, I wouldn't say that my main characters think of sex as a bad thing. So, there are a couple questions there. There's like, how do I think, and like, what do my books think? What do my characters think, and what do my books say? I don't think that my books say that sex is bad. But do my books say that sex is good is the other question, right? Are my books sex positive? Do they say like, oh, sex is great, everyone should do it? Not really. I don't think sex is particularly the focus of my books. I think it's something that exists in the worlds in which these characters are living. It's something that exists. I don't know. I don't want to decrease the nuance of the conversation, nor do I want to like just completely tell you everything about my books right here. You know what I'm saying? But I think that I am not going to strive per se to make my books sex positive in terms of making sex seem like a good thing, because I don't think sex is always a good thing. I think that there are definitely situations where it's better not to have sex, and obviously, everyone doesn't have to agree with me on that, and what situations I deem to be not good for sex may be different from situations deemed by other people. But we're just talking about what I think right now. I don't think that sex is always a good thing. I don't think it's always a good thing. But here's the kind of further point that I was trying to make that I kind of just got off track with, is I'm not striving to make my books sex positive, in that I think my books have to make sex look like a good thing in order for readers who are sexually active to feel good about themselves. I want my books to be people positive, in that they promote the idea that you are no less than someone else because you do have sex, or more than someone else, or better or worse than someone else, or you're this or you're that, like that you are a worthwhile individual, because I think that people who have sex are worthwhile individuals. I don't think they're any less worthwhile individuals than people who don't have sex. I think I did say that earlier. Whether it be premarital sex or in marriage, sex within the context of marriage, or any, like, I don't think that they're any less as people. So I wouldn't want my books to ever kind of portray this idea that like having sex makes you less good as a person. But I don't think it's necessary for sex itself to be portrayed as something that's always good in order for those people to be good and worthwhile. Does that make sense? So, obviously other people's books are their books. Like, your book is your book. So I'm not saying, oh, like all books have to be like this or have to be like that. But I guess I fear that if I were to push too hard to have my books be sex positive, I might end up plowing over the nuance of the discussion of like, the nuance of the discussion. In what situations is sex a good idea, or when is it not, or what are the consequences, both positive and negative, because I would say that it has both positive and negative consequences, just like pretty much any action does. So, I guess there's more that I could say on the topic, but let me know, your thoughts in the comments, your opinions on this. Do you think that we have a responsibility to have our books be sex positive per se? Are your books sex positive as long as they're not sex negative? Is that what that means? Just let me know. Oh, and I mentioned in one of my books that my main character, her mother won't let her call other girls a certain thing, which is like in this world, it's like the equivalent of like slut. Sorry. But her mother won't let her call other women that because, you know, like you shouldn't judge. Her mother says like you shouldn't judge women on like how much sex they have or haven't had. So the fact that like slut shaming exists in that culture and that my main character has been told by her mom not to do it, she has been taught against that. Maybe you call that sex positivity. I don't know. So just please let me know what you think. And yeah, I will talk to you soon. Bye.